Welcome everybody. Welcome to the second webinar hosted from our side. My name is Aleksa. I'm co-founder and CTO at Ethereus, where we primarily build mobile apps for our clients. My guest today is Yeskendir. I had the pleasure to meet him when we were discussing how they will migrate to Kotlin Multiplatform. That's one of the services we are offering to our clients. In the end, they did it on their own. And I think they did it in a really interesting way. So that will be the topic of our webinar. So Yeskendir, my friend, can you shortly introduce yourself to the people here and to the people who will be watching this in the YouTube video? So a short introduction in a couple of sentences will be much appreciated.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, first, Aleksa, thank you for having me. My name is Yeskendir. I'm a staff engineer at TrackMan, a Denmark company. We're creating hardware and software that helps players, golf players, but also in other sports to improve their performance. We measure. We have like everything to help players here to play better and increase their performance. That's actually it. So I have also, I think, 7 or 8 years experience basically doing iOS apps in different areas, mostly in the banks, fintech, but also in consultancy, and also in like different things like cryptocurrency and so on. I would say I touched a little there, here some technologies. So and when I joined the TrackMan as staff engineer, I was asked to like very simple and at the same time super hard like task, enable feature teams to go super fast and produce super good quality app. So, and you start thinking about like a bit differently should I go with this approach or another approach, or should we, because you have this responsibility and also you have this experience when people like refactoring again and again, and you don't want to end up in this situation, right?
Yeah, nice. Thank you very much for the introduction. What's kind of interesting to me, as you said, you'll be given that task, and you decided to go Kotlin Multiplatform. So my question is, why Kotlin Multiplatform? It's even more interesting that you, coming from an iOS engineering side and then recognizing that Kotlin Multiplatform is the way to go, when there are probably some alternatives like keeping the native apps but making some optimizations.
Yeah.
Why Kotlin Multiplatform?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm not the person who decided to go with KMP, Kotlin Multiplatform. When I joined the company, the Kotlin Multiplatform already was decided, but on the like interview phase, I was for it 100%. And now, even if I'll be the person who will decide, I'll go with the KMP. So my story, like my experience with KMP started 5 years ago. There was a very big companies a company in the Ukraine that has a white label app, worked in 4 countries: Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Kazakhstan. And I tried KMP actually. I was iOS developer, and they had the layer where you interact with KMP to fetch some data. So they also had GraphQL, they have database and everything. And I remember that they asked, like, do you know Kotlin? I said, well, I know some Java, but the Kotlin, probably yes. It's very similar to Swift. Why not? So I think that's a very like also a good thing that Kotlin, and I think also a lot of now like recent languages there have very similar concepts. They are, I think, borrow from each other, especially now in Swift. We also have actors. We have sync away that we borrowed from others languages and so on. So when you work with Kotlin, it's at some point it feels like a natural way to program. So same as Swift. So the question is why we still we see the like benefits having this KMP. So the idea is super easy. We want to have one code that works on every platforms, right? Like that's a dream. And if we think like a bit more, like is it crazy idea to then we can say that actually on Swift, if you write the Swift, you already write on different platforms. For example, you have iOS, you can run the same Swift UI and Swift for macOS, for Vision OS, for WatchOS, the same code. So so it's actually not so crazy to have one code base, one code, one logic, say, to write for different platforms. And if you look at the like compilation phase of every language, and especially Kotlin, KMP, and Swift, for example, they have very common like ground LLVM, and the only thing is how to compile, how to like convert one language to, let's say, to more low level. And if you look at that, you'll find that's that's the craziest idea, right? So then the question would be how much we can gain from that, how fast we can go. What's like where is the pro and con? So we were aware of, okay, so we have KMP. The idea sounds not so crazy. Let's measure. And here is super important also, like part that you need to choose right and correct metrics, and maybe at some point change those metrics to something that you can say, okay, that was good experiment or idea, or maybe we should tweak something, because without that you cannot say it was successful or not. So for us, it was, first of all, and for business, of course, the DORA metrics that basically says how fast teams can work and how bugs they create and how fast they can fix those bugs. We call it APM. It's like app performance metrics. It just measure the app size, launch time, build time, the performance like lags, hitches, hangs, memory consumption, and so on. So a lot of different like technical domain, because we don't want like to go with one technology and then end up like user don't have this experience like native, super cool, like that feels like native, and user wants to use that, right? Because I personally, like if I feel that something wrong on app, I just remove the app. For example, I have different banks that I see there is like infinity loading state. I was like, no, that's not the way. That's not serious. I just go, especially when it comes to some like, I don't know, like sensitive things, for example, finance or health, or and when you really need to get access real like now and so on. So I would say first, crazy, that's not the craziest idea. Then we have metrics that we want to be scientific. We want to say, yes, it was successful, or maybe not successful, or how successful it was, right?
Yeah. Love the metrics approach. So I think that's like the part which most businesses kind of skip doing. So they're like, this framework is super cool, let's do it, and then they just fall back when they see that it's not working. And you did all of the metrics. You saw that Kotlin multi-platform approach is success and can be something which you will potentially use. I love that part. We personally didn't do it, so we just tried out and so it works without any proper metrics. So that's really nice. And then when you decided, okay, we will go with Kotlin multi-platform, so what were the next steps? From my perspective, probably it's deciding which layers you want to share, because as probably most of the people in the meeting know, you can maybe only share the data layer, maybe you can share view models. So how did you come up with that decision? Is it also by some metrics? Is it per existing setups which you had on iOS and Android apps? So what layers did you decide to share?
Yeah. So
just before the implementation, maybe the usage, how do you define the metrics, and how do you how do you apply these metrics? Maybe I missed those parts, but can you mention about the metrics part?
Yeah. So regarding metrics is actually super simple. The DORA is well-defined framework for measuring the metrics. There are four metrics. So it's how fast you ship the product, how frequent, how many bugs you create, how fast you fix them. So you have a lot of different data sources. It is the first, your, of course, GitHub or somewhere where you ship your code. Another is your board. It could be Jira. It could be Azure DevOps, where you can also see how much time it takes to move from one column to another, like in progress, then in QA testing, and so on. And also there is it of course requires some preparation and let's say consistency in how you put or how you describe the task and how you label them. For example, regarding the bugs, it's very important to give a category for the bug. Is it a functional bug? Is it design bug? And so on. And when you do some very simple, I would say, manipulation of the data, you can get very cool insights. For example, you can even get information per developer. So you can say this developer is not very good on Friday second week when you give this kind of task. And that's very nice when you have like one-to-one and you can say, hey, that's the actually growth for you. So you can work more on this stuff. And what can we help you to grow in this direction, right? So that's the first part of DORA. That's the business, related to business. Another APM, or what I mentioned, we have some, let's say, automation that measure the different metrics like build time. It's super easy, right? Test time, the app size, it's super also easy. The script just run and you send some information. You have also graph like how big changes between those PRs, right? Between releases, so upsize increase. We actually already have that in the Xcode. I forgot the name, that the metrics. You can see that by release, the launch time changes, the memory consumption changes, and also other metrics. And you can actually customize that. The framework is called the XC metrics, I guess.
Nice. Thank you very much, Ahmed, for the question. Thank you, Yeskendir. For the further questions, we can do them at the end of the meeting. We will have some time for Q&A. So write your questions in the chat, and I'll go over them with
that would be better to answer all the questions at once. Regarding your question about which layers we decided to go with, as I mentioned, the idea is just to have one code that you just ship and it works everywhere, right? That's the perfect solution would be. But in reality, it's not always work like that, right? In reality, you have a lot of warnings, you have errors, you have some incompatibility, you have that it doesn't support something that you want right now. For example, could be the glass, this glass effect, and also you want something that right now that works like super fresh API that works on one platform, but unfortunately it doesn't support it, but by your framework, right? So it's not only applicable to KMP. I would say any solution, even if we talk about, for example, in one ecosystem, for example, for iOS against macOS or anything, you will find that something works on one platform that has API. Especially it was even before CTI, there was UIKit and AppKit, and you will find I'm still writing on Swift, but why I need to split, right? Something doesn't work. My framework doesn't work because it doesn't support AppKit, for example. So there is some limitation, and if you want to grow, we felt like, if we want to go fast without variable in our calculation that can say we can say, in the future there could be some situation when you will end up spending weeks on finding solution for something. Probably it will be even hacky because you will wait proper solution from the contributor or someone who will prepare the best solution right for you. And we didn't want that. And that's I wouldn't say there is like perfect match, and it always depends on the situation, on your project, on your people who work there. So for us, it was interesting discussion with our Android tech lead, who was I would say quite like very open to discuss different ideas, very open for iOS also. That like let's be very honest, and like we will, if there will be some blockers, we will do that together. So we need some solution that really will work on every situation. So we say, okay, now there was at that time Compose Multiplatform was in a beta version, and now it's on stable. So we decided, okay, we want full flexibility. We want like any time that that developers will not block, and they can fully like enabled and work and do their best. So it means if they do for iOS, we want be fully like possible to work any API that available for iOS, Swift, latest Swift, latest Xcode, latest frameworks. But still, there is some part that you just duplicate, and it doesn't depend on any platforms. So basically, we find that we have business logic, and if one like point was just duplication, another point was super crucial part actually lives in the business logics. So it was kind of 2 points that we say, okay, we for sure want to go with to share business logic. And also we will look into sharing the presentation and UI. So we still have for some features and views fully KMP and plus CMP, Kotlin Multiplatform and Compose Multiplatform. So for example, we have renderings that utilize scheme. We also have with Alex discussion about that on iOS it converts to Metal, and Metal quite good. You can see on the preview. So we decided to go like that, and I would say that's the common in the industry. When I mentioned when I work in a Ukraine company, also the same like approach that the layer you share, it's usually the business logic and the presentation on your client side, like on separately on iOS and Android.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you very much for the detailed answer. So basically, what I love here is that you tried to de-risk project in the long run. So you decided for KMP because like going forward, like you could always adopt liquid glass. You could always adopt the newer thing without risking your product. And then when you want to have something which is reusable, like okay, for this screen we can go Compose Multiplatform, and then you just share it between platforms. So really love the approach, and that leads us to the next topic I want to discuss with you. And based on our discussions, I think it's been huge for your company, which is type-driven design. So me personally, I've heard it previously, but I didn't use it a lot across our projects. So can you explain to me why, and to all of the people listening to this, why is type-driven design so useful for your organization?
Yeah. So if you remember, the task is enable feature teams, right? You have a bunch of people who work independently. They go for their feature, and they treat their feature like their own app. So they have own let's say they have own procedure processes, and they release dates, let's say, and you want to give them best possible tools, and also you at some point you want to give them freedom but also control them. I mean, control the quality, and also you also responsible for some any blockers they can face with. So when we analyze the let's say development process, how devs start working and ship, we saw that there is in different places, like for example, when they start working on the feature, they got business requirements, they try to implement that, they go to Figma, they look at the business logic, what should be there. We found 2-3 bottlenecks that usually like very fragile code, let's say. And we said like, okay, there is like what the problem with development process, how to like what we want to fight. And we end up having one metric, we call it the feedback loop. It's a common thing that you just want to make sure that you find bugs as early as possible, right? You want to write code from the first try, not to rewrite it 2-3 times to adjust here and there and spend time, resources, right? So we find that, okay, we have these metrics, feedback loop. We want to decrease the feedback loop. We want to find any bugs as early as possible. And when we look at that, we find out that the best moment that you want to find bugs, it's on compile stage. So compiler is like your super nervous, super senior developer who will say, hey, no, you can't do that. I will not let you like compile and build this project, because you cannot put string into integer, right? Or something like that. You cannot like do some crazy stuff. There is rules. And if you can skip or just shut down linter rules, compiler, you cannot shut down compiler. So we thought we need to like leverage, we want to make that work for us. And type-driven design is actually about that. So if you want to praise what type-driven design gives you, is actually just super simple. If it compiles, it means it works as intended. So that's the perfect, ultimate, I would say, goal of type-driven design. So it means when you write your code and business logic, you need to create those types which represents your states, represents your business logic, and if something was broken, the compiler will find it. So that's the idea behind the type-driven design, and why we went with the type-driven design. And it means just we're super cautious about types we do. And I also wrote about that the article, but basically I would say the original author of type-driven design was Aleksa. He inspired me to add this like concept in our workflow. Yep.
Nice. Thank you very much. Definitely like love the idea that like catching all of the states during the compile time, which means if you miss the state, something is missed in the ticket refinement.
Exactly.
If it's in the refinement and it's in the code, it will work, and that's absolutely great. So just to give some more clarification based on our discussion, that means like on iOS side, you're using TCA or the composable architecture for enabling that, and on Android side, I think Circuit, right, for making the state machine works. And so getting to the part of how that works in Kotlin Multiplatform. So as we discussed, like you have this shared business logic. You pull it up inside the inside one framework, which has the shared things like I'm guessing like API calls and things like that. And then since you have modules on both iOS and Android app, like you inject the function which needs to be made in the module, which needs it through some protocol or abstraction. So please tell me if I got it right, or yeah, you can give your 2 cents about that one.
Yeah, exactly. So now imagine you are super overwhelmed of your super big project, and you just want to do something isolated, like playground, and you just create your SPM Swift package manager package, and you define your scope of anything you need, dependencies, right? It could be some libraries that you need for your feature, and it builds super fast. And we treat our features the same way. So they have their own space. They can build why they need to build a whole project that's not related to their feature. So we go with this isolated, let's say, modularized setup, and in that sense, you don't want to be dependent on third something like data lives there. So it actually enables the feature team to go fast to focus on their feature. And earlier I mentioned the APM metrics that stands for app performance metric. So how fast you can build. Actually, with SPM you can build fast, and actually you build only those things that you really need for your feature. So for that reason, we don't have in SPMs any like SPM doesn't know anything about KMP. Yeah. And that also it also followed kind of solid principle that it says that you don't want to be like dependent on implementation. You want to be dependent on some abstraction, right? Dependency inversion, and same thing. So if we change KMP to any other code business logic, it will still work. So that's the reason behind that.
You're just injecting the protocols, like, and you just change the underlying implementation, and
exactly. So we say fetch function, which returns you result of if success data, if error this error, and we control types. We control types, like what types will return, and we don't care about the implementation. And when we need, we just mock that, we test that, and that's it. So when it comes in the big picture, so you have your SPM, everything's fine. Now you need to inject. We inject that through, as you also mentioned, the library, XC framework that produced from like KMP through Gradle. There in Gradle, it gives you very good flexibility in that sense that you can, for different architecture, for debug, for release, you can change if you want it to be static or dynamic libraries, which is super nice. So at the end, if you are a Swift developer, you just treat XC framework as any Swift library. So you just inject that to your SPM, and that's it. So in our setup, we have different, let's say, layers. So we have GraphQL models that converts to the domain model. And here we have Mapper. And Mapper is super important here because we care about type, as I mentioned, type-driven design. So they are kind of, those mappers are kind of gates that eliminate all invalid states. It means all bugs, everything that could lead to something that we don't want, we eliminate in the mappers. So we are very careful about what we produce, which type and how. So we map, let's say, from GraphQL model to domain models, and then from domain model to the presentation model. If you open now some guidance documentation about the KMP, how to produce KMP, is actually you just add it to the build steps, and it works magically, super nice.
Yep.
But then we tried, and we have selective testing, which is super nice. So we understand which part changed in your app, in your main target, and do I need to run some special related tests, right, for this changed code? And we noticed that actually it doesn't work with KMP. It breaks, and it takes a lot of time because you don't need KMP for everything. And that's why we decided to build XC framework, wrap it into the SPM, and then produce everywhere where we want to. It means that we don't need to inject that into the main app, main target. So you can do another layer of SPM, then there do anything, injections and so on. And main target could be just shell, right? Yep, I think that's mainly that, like, let's say, unique implementation of our. I would say we didn't follow like any like guidance or some like implementation of other companies. It was super. We were super like conscious about, okay, we need types, we need this implementation, we faced with this problem, we need to find workaround, and that was the result.
Yeah. I love like the fact that you did not follow the others. So you saw what they are doing. You were aware of how KMP works, and you were technical enough to adapt that to your needs, to follow it up with the benchmarks and everything to validate that it's working. And I love that part. And your approach with this SPM injection is super unique, and something I heard for the first time when I was talking to you. So really appreciated sharing that with the people. So yeah, definitely something which is worth trying. So following up to that, like you're like experiencing Kotlin multi-platform for some time now, and we've been doing it as well. And now when you're talking, it sounds super easy. So it sounds like you just like went from 0 to 1, and that's it. My question is here, like what were the main challenges with KMP, or did you get stuck at some point and said, is this a good idea? Can this be done? So did you have that kind of moments during the adoption?
Yeah. So I really like that you mentioned that the seniority or the expertise in that level gives you kind of confidence to try and experiment. And in that sense, from iOS, I was kind of the lead, and from Android, as I mentioned, we have a Android tech lead who was brave enough to consider different crazy ideas how we can try this, and for example, type-driven design, because it's not quite popular in the industry to go with type-driven design and do all setup around that.
Mm-hmm.
But we believe that it, as I mentioned, this feedback loop, and we believe that okay, that should work. And we both spend many hours on the board, like, okay, what if I inject here? No. What about see how it will work? So I would say the adoption of KMP and the different problems, first of all, was covered by my Android tech lead. He's an amazing guy. He like follow the news and other like KMP stuff when they're stable or better. We're like, okay, sharing
Like
news. Here's the thing. So I would say many things that even I don't know. He covered that. When it comes to Swift side, I would say the main challenge was and still is the conversion of types from Kotlin to Swift and how they behave. For example, now if we look at what KMP produced, it produced an Objective-C code.
Yes.
And when you look at the type, you can see actually what types inside. You see that, for example, every class inherits Kotlin base. And if you look why, then you can look theory behind that, like how they handled RC. A lot of issues actually super interesting to read. So they leverage the Objective-C dynamic thing that they have this release retain function when you need to you retain and then release the memory. So that's the first thing that you see, that it's actually not just class. It's not just direct dispatch there. It's something behind that. And usually as pure Swift developers, you want to avoid Objective-C. You want to avoid those overheads and you want to control things. So when you see that you want just consume class, it's not just class. It's something over there. So that's one thing. Another thing, when you expect to have some specific type, for example, let's say you want to have array of my model, some profile model, let's say, you end up having NS array. So you just erase the type. So you have at the end NS array, and then you need to cast, and it works. You just cast and it works. So it also like kind of maybe a small thing, but still there. So that's why there is the Sky library framework gives you like translate to Swift language. So we use right now the Skia, and we have very good, I would say, syntax that basically you work as a Swift because the main usage of Skia we have for enums, since we use the type-driven design enums we use everywhere, I would say. And there is functions called on enum or something like that. So we just switch the cases because you cannot just pass the you can just handle the type. You need to wrap it into the on enum like that. So I would say that the biggest challenge, and every time we think, can we use this type directly, or we need to wrap it into something?
Yeah. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, but that's technical part. Of course, there's a lot of different things, but I wouldn't say that they're super big. So I would say on the dev side that the developers who are used to work on one technology or one, it's a bit hard to work on both platforms. Another challenge is to force, probably not the good word, but like let Swift developers write Kotlin for business logic, because we want them also to be aware of, because usually it's like Android guy, no Kotlin, then go and do KMP, and Swift will just consume that, and we don't want that.
Yeah. So I'll shortly touch on everything which you said. So first of all, with these Objective-C wrappers or generated classes, I'm really much aware of that, because like from our perspective, we had an approach where we want to share view models as well. So it introduced a lot of problems with re-renderings and things we had to write customly. But my question for you, did Skia resolve all of the typing issues which you had, or you're still have some issues even with Skia, and you're waiting for Swift expert?
Yeah, for sure we're waiting Swift expert. But for Skia, I would say more or less we got what we wanted. We had some cases, but I don't remember if we solved that or we just find a workaround. But as far as you know, yeah, I think Ski, it's a quite decent library or framework.
Yeah, it's pretty nice from guys from TouchLab. And if you don't remember the issue, then it's probably not that huge. So
Maybe.
Yeah. So it's all good. And to touch about the second topic, and that's also something I want to discuss with you, is like iOS developers adopting KMP, and based on my previous experience working with our internal team, working with other clients team, that always needs some assurance when talking with iOS team, that it's a good thing from them, that it's not that easy, that Kotlin and Swift are, it's not that hard, that Kotlin and Swift are similar. So I want to learn more about your practical way of handling this. Do you have some guidelines for iOS developers, like when they want to write their first Kotlin multi-platform code, or how that process goes for you?
Yeah. So there is, I would say, two ways. One is go through some theory to understand the Kotlin, how it works more or less, and like go and try, right? Another what we do is give a task to implement something, and then we review that. Review the feature team, inside the feature team, but also from the core team, Android team lead, who are more expert at that, and gives really valuable knowledge. Should we do that or not? And sometimes we have sessions, learning session, like, okay, do this way, because yeah, you can also do that, but we don't want, because this reason. And that way you devs do like learn much faster and learn things step by step, because you can go too deep into the theory, and you cannot produce any result. You just go to theory, learn stuff, but actually in reality you're like, what was the solution? I need to check or ask AI, right? So that the first thing. And of course, as I mentioned, AI works for that as well. So it gives you maybe not the super production code, but it can explain you what others wrote in other modules. So you can see clearly the style. And if you don't understand, you can ask, oh, okay, why it was written like that, how it works. And it can give you quite good answers about the Kotlin, KMP, how it works. You can go to some documentation from Google, how they implement that, and of course, some support from people who already like work a lot on Kotlin, but also on KMP. So I would say there's two way, and we chose the second one just through through real tasks and step-by-step learning. Even I don't like, even me, I don't think that I'm super expert in Kotlin. Sometimes I look at the Kotlin like, what's the magic there? Like, to be honest, as a developer, I see at the Kotlin and I think so much sugar. Why you like so much sugar? It's like some magic at some point, because on Swift, like there's also sugar, of course, but I look and I understand that. But on Kotlin, sometimes like, hey, why are you doing that? And actually, it's because there the function, upper function is resolving and do something for you. I was, okay, got it. So for me, it's also always learning for that. Yeah.
Nice. I'm a big fan of the approach, like doing practical things to learn. So it needs a supportive environment also. Like I think that's super important. Where when you know that when you ship that code, that like the purpose of the pull request will be for you to learn and not for someone to say things like why did you not do it in that way or that way. And I think that's something based on our discussions that you have in your team, and I think that's awesome. And I'll be back to this topic between iOS and Android shortly. Just you mentioned AI. I want to ask you, do you use in Kotlin Multiplatform this, you have now this hybrid code base, do you use some AI code assistance or things like that? Is this something which is encouraged in your organization or?
Yeah. Good point. I don't think we have established like rules on how to utilize AI in which area, but we use a lot. For example, documentation, writing tests, and also like the bug and find solution for some problems. Sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't work. But in regards of KMP, and maybe not KMP, but in general, the Android and iOS. So sometimes we have feature on Kotlin and already there, and we need to write it on Swift because we have the same business logic on KMP. We produce same types, domain model, and then on both platforms, let's say on Kotlin and on Swift, we then map that to presentation models, which consumed by Compose on Android and Swift UI on iOS. And there, and also as I also you mentioned, we have Circuit UDF architecture on Android and TCA UDF architecture on iOS. And if you look and compare the view, like the presentation layer, it actually looks like 90% the same, because we have also state, we have action, user, even Compose works quite similarly, right, to Swift UI. And it's just, I think, natural to ask AI, like, hey, you already have that on Kotlin, on Compose, why just don't go and use that on Swift? But of course, another would be question that, are you reviewing that? Because that's super like universal problem that you need to review. That write code is easy, read code is hard. That everything around architecture and reviewing code is all about that. Because then when you find a bug, you need to load this mental model again to your brain and understand what's happening on your code. So that's why we reviewing that. We call it like guidance. Guardrails. We have linter, we have compiler first, linter, we have test, we have architectural test. Architectural tests actually super nice. It doesn't allow you to kind of create something that you don't want. For example, if you don't have view model, as we also don't have that. If you create suddenly view model, test will fail and say, hey, we are not allowed to. You're not allowed to write here some view model, something like that. So you can set some rules and then architectural test. That's why it's called architectural. So it's kind of follow the rule that you give to test. So and then you have format that also you need to follow the format. Then you have on CI different checks, and if you went through that, and also two reviewers approved, then your code should be fine after AI like added something. But of course, time to time we have like in reality that we need to ship fast, and we can pass something that we're like, oh, okay, that's AI, but looks like good, looks like production code. Okay, let's do that. But yeah, so it's you never know like for sure 100%. So we believe that our stuff works and also enables. So that's the ultimate goal: enable future teams, grow fast, produce the highest, the best possible quality.
Nice. Yeah. So as you mentioned, like in like AI coming in, like people are more like switching roles between writing coding and reviewing the code which AI write, which is like, as you said, ultimately the most important part is and it goes back to understanding. So if you raise the pull request for that, it assumes that you understand it. If they have written the code, okay, but you need to understand it, and you need to make sure that it follows all of the guidelines. So yeah, so definitely. So I have one more question for you, and while we're chatting about that, yeah, we will, if you have some more questions, guys, please write it in the chat. We have one question in the chat, and I have one more question for you right now, and that is a topic we discussed about, and I think going further and mobile development, like in 3 to 5 years, like I think more and more people will be people who know iOS and Android, people who know multiple technologies. So as I know that you're hiring right now, you're now trying to like bridge this Kotlin multi-platform approach to multiple teams. So how did you structure the interviews, and what is your opinion on that? Do you strictly need someone who has experience on both sides? So how will they adapt to the growing Kotlin multi-platform code base? So that's my question.
Yeah, I think that's a super good question, since it's very important, right? So you want like best candidate that actually has the same tech stack, same experience as you do. That would be nice. Like for me, it would be guy who knows type-driven design, who use KMP, who knows the Kotlin. He already shipped some project on iOS and some caveats. Care about performance, think about metrics. That would be guy I would just hire, but that would be just my clone, right? So and I think every time of course we want to the candidate that match like requirements, right? But in reality there is like no like 100% match for that. But so then we think about what's really important and what dev can learn after some time, right? So the learning, the ability to learn and start working, and as soon as possible the better. So that's the most important thing, that can dev just learn things. And if I just like give you and we spend 30 minutes together, would you be able to then work independently and catch like those things I explained? That's the first thing. And another thing is actually the I would say the main problems we got is not about learning or not learning KMP. So the main problems actually is just people who are not, for example, enough like proactive enough, people who are not deep enough in their fields. For example, if we are hiring iOS, we can ask basic questions or mid-level questions, and they're not able to answer them, or not passionate enough to like also in the same field. For example, if I ask what's about like SIF concurrency, how do you find that, right? What about that? And the interesting thing, it's not the like correct answer or not, but also honesty to say, hey guys, I don't know, I don't know that, but I will just open documentation or Google that or ask AI, right? So some part like percentage of honesty, some percentage of expertise, some percentage of proactiveness, but also something like easy to how fast candidate can learn. And KMP is something I would say secondary. At least we find out like after those findings that okay, we first of all we just need some dev who can write code, who can understand business requirements, ask good, correct questions, and if developers or candidate found something that can block his progress, just to raise the hand, say, hey, I need help. That's the first things like essentials requirements. And then the secondary, of course, the other technologies like how good you know the Swift UI, how good you are on the Swift with KMP. So I would say at some point we just lowered standard to the let's say to the point that we say, okay, those first are more important than the second. So if you're good enough on those criteria, I just mentioned the business requirements. So we expect that you find some like we just learn how to work with Skim because you already know. See, for example, enough. You're curious enough.
You're curious enough.
Yeah, and so far it works good, but of course not without like some pitfalls.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I love this answer in particular because you put so much emphasis on some things which are not purely coding and not purely experience-wise. They're more like how curious are you? And from my perspective, working with a lot of different teams, I find that, as you said, like if you're curious enough and you want to go deep, you're not afraid to go deep into the technology, you will definitely learn something new. So as you said, first it's about how someone can fit into that, and then secondary is like the technologies. That's just a bonus. So thank you very much, Yeskendir. That this was a really great session. Really so much insights from your side. Really valuable. There are not a lot of teams adopting KMP at scale, so great job on doing that. We have one question in the chat, which I want to go over with you from Ahmed, and that will be all for today's meeting. So Ahmed is saying it would be really helpful to practice this concept and project structure if we had a sample project. Is this possible? It's not a question. Yeah, is that possible on a simple terms? Only a starter project would be wonderful. Yeah, you can answer Yeskendir from your side, but from my side, when we were adopting KMP, we liked those kind of projects. We liked the documentation, we liked the good practices, we liked contributions to the open source things, and we're trying to do that now. We're working on some project templates of our own. We will be launching them for KMP and CMP. But what's your opinion? What's your opinion on that one? What is the state of Kotlin Multiplatform when it comes to best practices, to templates, to something which you can just show to people and say, yeah, these are the guidelines which work. Try to follow them, and it will probably work for you, because as you know, what works for one large scale organization and app like probably will work for another one, like as you said, for IS, if we go modularization, clean architecture, that those concepts will work. So what's your opinion about that things with Kotlin Multiplatform?
Yeah, of course. So first of all, super helpful to read different articles, follow people who work on that. For example, Aleksa also, I think, super valuable insights when he posts his experience of integrating KMP in different projects, interesting different challenges. And maybe one of challenges you also facing in your project, so you could just maybe consider same solution, right? At least. But what also I think now we are experiencing is also in industry is that everyone looking for like a silver bullet that works one thing, like just one for everything, and that's kind of also a problem. So I think that also like lead to some holy words like what best architectures like MVVM, MVC, and other stuff, right? So and that always depends, right, on your setup, project, what you want from that, people who work with you, on their, let's say, attitudes to one or another technology. But I would say I really like to say that a lot. Like always question everything. Like don't go and fall into the like this hole, like rabbit hole that goes and like there is like authority argument, like oh Apple does this way or Google does MVVM. Let's go. And sometimes people like even in candidates comes and like Apple says we should do MVVM. I was like, where? Give me like even like I just don't believe you because everything around view, not view model, you can inject environment object, environment binding and other stuff, data into the view. There's no view model, for example. So we can argue like just forever. So I always say like always question everything. If Apple does this way, it doesn't mean that you should do that way. And I also very grateful for Android tech lead in our company. He's brave enough to consider different ideas of like KMP implementation because there's a way to go with view model. You just inject, you're good to go. You don't need even like to treat view model as view model. You can just say some service or something like that. But we said, okay, let's maybe stop here and think, should we go here on this way or another way? And what works for us? What truth for us? So if that truth for us and we believe in that, let's go there. So I would say, yeah, to be conscious and explore things and like question everything. That I would say that's it.
Yeah, love the perspective, and that's based on your story. That's how you actually got to your approach, which is unique. You didn't like go and see some big company is doing KMP like this, let's do it like that. You sat down with your Android tech lead, you pulled up a board, and then you started drawing
exactly
things. Yeah, and that's how the best ideas come to life. So as you said, like go try out, figure things out. Like maybe it will be a more long-term process, but when you get to the solution, it will be something which fits perfectly for your team as it is for what you found yesterday with your team, and I absolutely love it. So yeah, thank you very much again for your time. Thank you very much for sharing all of your insights. It was really interesting talking to you as usual. Thank you everybody for joining. This video will be on YouTube as well, so you can watch it there as well. Thank you very much, Yeskendir. Have a great day, rest of the day, and see ya. Bye bye.